Good morning, viewers. Welcome to DDM Money Show. I am Tosh Raphael, joined by DDM News analyst Ibrahim Umawase and Mr. Ako Christian Oche, convener, Due Process Integrity Vanguard. You're welcome, gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure for having me, Mr. Tochukwu.
All right, today, Wednesday, 3rd September, our talk will center around many disturbing events overseas, with two of these stories having direct connection to Nigeria. First, with the Gaza conflict intensifying and the world grappling with its devastating consequences, the upcoming United Nations General Assembly stands as a pivotal moment for Palestine's long-standing quest for statehood. Second, Nigerian students and families in danger of deportation as the United Kingdom proposes new law. And finally, amid soaring inflation, unemployment, and dwindling opportunities under President Bola Tinubu's administration, over 36,000 Nigerians take a desperate step of seeking asylum abroad. You're watching DDM TV. Do ensure you stay tuned for the analysis of these stories. All right. As the world watches the unfolding crisis in Gaza with bated breath, the spotlight now turns to the upcoming 80th United Nations General Assembly in September, where a historic decision looms large. Will the global community formally recognize Palestine as a sovereign state? This moment carries immense weight, promising to reshape diplomatic ties, redefine international law, and alter the balance of power in the Middle East. Over 140 countries, a clear majority of the 193 UN member states, have declared their intention or are widely expected to formally recognize Palestine as a sovereign state during this session. This movement builds on decades of diplomatic efforts that began with the UN's 1947 Resolution 181, proposing the partition of mandatory Palestine, and escalated through key UN milestones, including Palestine's 1988 Declaration of Independence and its recognition as a non-member observer state at the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. As of 2025, Palestine remains a non-member observer state in the United Nations. This status, granted by the General Assembly, allows Palestine to participate in the UN proceedings except for voting in the main organs like the Security Council and the General Assembly. While the General Assembly in May 2024 recognized Palestine as qualified to join the UN as a full member and recommended reconsideration by the Security Council, full membership has not been granted because the Security Council, where veto powers exist, has not taken favorable action on the matter. Thus, Palestine continues with its non-member observer state status, the same as the Holy See, Vatican, in the UN system. Today, we sit down with international affairs analyst Paul Ejime to explore the significance of Palestine's quest for statehood, the challenges ahead, and whether the UN's decision can truly tilt the scales toward peace and justice in one of the world's most enduring conflicts. I'm glad to have you on the DDM Money Show, Mr. Ejime.
Thank you for having me, Tochukwu, and well done, it's your team.
All right. Now, Mr. Ejime, as the UN General Assembly prepares to vote on Palestine's full membership, how significant is this moment in the broader history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
So, what has changed in the Palestinian question is the killing that is happening in Gaza after the October 23rd, 2023, surprise attack by, the Hamas in Israel. That is the only thing that has changed, and that is why you have seen the Israel has reacted and has not stopped under Netanyahu, who is a warmonger. He has, even though he has problems at home, including alleged corruption, he has now, as a way of deflecting everything, he is fighting going, even when you have protests in Israel and all over the place about the genocide and what is happening in Gaza. More than 64,000 people have killed, mainly Palestinians. In reaction to that attack, that surprise attack by Hamas. I think that is what has changed. And the world is now watching. You see children dying of malnutrition, dying of hunger. People, when they go to, they are going to where you call the spaces allowed for food handouts. They are being attacked and killed. Hospitals, and then wait for it, more than 240 media workers have been killed. And the world appears to be, just watching this, genocide and massacres going on. So that is what has changed. I don't think that the world has been on the issue of Palestine and Israel. So long as the Israel has the support of the United States, and which has been, the relationship between Netanyahu and President Donald Trump of U.S. is what is going to make the shift, whether ever there will be one. You can even add more members to the UN membership. That is not going to change, because even Israel does not recognize some of the resolutions that are passed by the UN, and then US itself picks and chooses. It cherry picks what it wants to obey. For instance, the meeting you are talking about, US has already blocked the Palestinian leader from attending. So, and you cannot decide on somebody's fate when they are not represented. So that tells you what actually will come out of this meeting. So what the world is trying to do catch up because of the images that are now coming out. But I'm telling you that the decider will be when will President Donald Trump call Netanyahu to order. If he doesn't, I think that that massacre, that genocide will continue. And even when you see that when individual countries are taking action against Netanyahu, President Trump is coming hard on them. I'm talking about Brazil and all those that are trying to ask Netanyahu to stop. He is not, when you do that, you have President Donald Trump to contend with. So, and that is not the environment where you will find anything, and that is even for the General Assembly. After the General Assembly can issue a resolution, you are aware, is non-binding. It's only when the Security Council does that. And who are members of Security Council? The US is there, and and once a member vetoes anything, it's not going to fly. So it is a case of maybe wait and see. But from following this, they have how many resolutions will be passed on the two-state option or the independence of Palestine? But it has never moved forward because of this interest, because the U.S. continues to supply Israel with armament. European countries that are also now talking now, they are also supplying Israel with weapons. And when you do that behind and come in public to say a different thing, it shows perfidy and hypocrisy. And that is what is driving the world powers policy towards Palestine case. Unfortunately, that is true.
But currently, we are having more countries from the West. For example, recently, the most recent acknowledgement is coming from Belgium, which says that it is going to recognize the state of Palestine come September. But do you think this acknowledgement from more countries in the West will pressurize the United States to think, in the same direction that they are thinking?
Well, you will talk about the clout. What can Belgium muster? But I'm telling you, look at a way to judge what is happening there now is look at the war between Russia and Ukraine, where the majority of Western countries, NATO, are all against Russia. But one country, only few European countries support Russia. The majority, including all the NATO members, are against. But what is holding? Why has there not been any movement there? It's part of that hypocrisy that they are not seeing the need for a ceasefire. All they are doing is supporting Ukraine to fight Russia. The same thing, even when you get the number, so long as America has not stepped in, I don't think there will be no movement. That is the point I'm trying to make. Unless and until Washington decides, well, this is gone enough, and then they want to stop it, Paul Netanyahu cannot obey any other person unless he knows that if America today asks him to do something, I think he will do it. But they haven't done so. And I don't know whether getting more members to recognize Palestine will shift the narrative or the optics. But it remains to be seen. That is the point I'm making.
All right, Mr. Ejime, I will come back to you shortly. Mr. Omar Wase, what do you think about this? The coming session, the coming conference in September, do you think it will have any significant bearing on the war in Gaza?
All right, Mr. Paul said it all, because clearly we know that there are only 5 members of the Security Council, and most of these 5 members have veto power. So most of the European countries were against Russia invasion of Ukraine, including the United States. But does it make any change? No, because Russia has a veto power in the United Nations. So I'm seeing most of the things that is happening in the United Nations as more of a symbolism than real democracy that we have been clamoring for and advocating for. So I think we in the global south, we have to say enough to this hypocrisy. Because I can remember clearly during the apartheid regime of South Africa, the same Western world that we are praising today and think they have the moral superiority to tell us what is right and wrong, supported the apartheid regime in South Africa. They supported the ethno supremacy in South Africa. They gave the apartheid South Africa the weapon to carry out the killing of the native South Africans. And when all of a sudden Nelson Mandela came and won the war finally in 1994, they came back shamelessly to support him and say, oh, we are with you today because you won. Don't forget the same European country called Nelson Mandela a terrorist. And today he's no longer a terrorist. He's one of the heroes in the world because he won. So that signifies that that reiterated what Machiavelli said, the aim justified the means. So it's not about terrorism anymore. Seeing Donald Trump shaking hands with a non-terrorist, the current Syrian president, he is a non-Al-Qaeda terrorist. And by the way, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, as a terrorist organization sponsored by Qatar. Qatar is an ally of the United States. So seeing this double standard and hypocrisy, one has to wonder what is right and what is wrong. And I wish, it is only my wish, that the truth have a tongue.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Ejime, what are the key legal and diplomatic implications if Palestine is, for instance, is formally recognized as a sovereign state by the UN? What does it mean in the legal and diplomatic terms?
Well, it depends on what the assembly decides to give. But like I told you, it's one thing for the assembly to decide, it's another thing in the practicality whether that can happen. For instance, the UN Charter on host country does not allow for any member being disallowed to attend its meetings. But America has now blocked the Hamas, the Palestinian leader, from attending. And what is nobody is going to challenge that. That is the point I'm making. So whether the point is that if assuming all the countries, every other country other than America recognizes the state of Palestine, that is just one step, in a very long journey. And the journey is long and short. It is long because America, to get America to come back and stop supporting Netanyahu or Israel is one thing. But they can also do it if they just, a pronouncement can do the magic. So for now, the membership of Palestine is limited to just almost like an observer state, or you can address the meeting and then maybe vote and be voted for. But at least if the America allows, all the 5 Security Council members can agree to it. And when that happens, yes, it can be a movement, but it's now checkmated by the fact that America, like Trump will say, has the card. In fact, the only card or the last card to decide what status Palestine will get under in the UN membership, which is unfortunate. The world, yes, and Ibrahim mentioned apartheid. It was not only that Mandela won, there were forces both outside and within. And that is what we have to understand. And that is where one will also want the Palestinian Authority to take a decision about Hamas, because Hamas is not helping the Palestinian cause. Okay? They are now talking about release of hostages. I mean, you have seen what holding on to these hostages is doing to your people. I mean, a time will come when let Hamas take over, not Hamas, let Palestinian Authority take over the governance of the Palestinian territory. Because for now, it is believed that Hamas is in charge. And Hamas is an organization that is tainted. The image is tainted. Nobody likes to be, and let's face it, some of the operations or activities of Hamas in going after, targets, any country can be affected. America feels that they were the bombing of 9/11 and all that, and targeting American interests. So it is a case of trying to say, well, this organization is dangerous, we want to, but they cannot uproot it. That's another irony. If all they are doing now, by this Scotch policy of killing everything in the name of looking for Hamas leaders, it will only, embolden the children. Look at the children that are there. I don't think those children, when they grow up and they see the kind of, inhuman treatment that is being meted to their people, they will be radicalized. And so there may never be an end to this type of violence that these people think they are trying to prevent. Because what they will tell me is that Netanyahu said they are going to finish, make sure they level on the ground. Some of them will still find a place. Are you not surprised that with all they have done, they still have the ability to keep some hostages, beyond all the technology and sophistication of Israeli intelligence. That tells you that terrorism or terrorism is something that it's not a what is it? You don't do that in normal confrontation. It's not a regular war. At times these terrorists have a way of doing it to inflict a maximum casualty, and when they do that, because they are seeking attention. So this has to be the Palestinian Authority also has to take some responsibility here to make sure that those who are causing this problem are, sent out or eased out, so that liberal people can govern Palestine and save the people all these, the disaster, genocide and then mass killing. Look at the way they are bombing, leveling everything. And now Netanyahu says he wants to drive them away from there. Of course, you cannot. It's an ideology. You can't eliminate a race, a people. They've been doing it since 1948, and there hasn't been any solution. Even President Trump has talked about moving them somewhere and turning the place into a golf course. Those are some of the very, dehumanizing narratives that are coming out. We are talking about human beings and not even if animals or whatever, or non-human. So there has to be a deliberate, attempt, and then intentional to really make sure that everybody, and then the Palestinians, the Hamas people too, they have to see that there is no end game. There is nothing, they cannot gain anything from subjecting their people to this kind of endless killing and massacres. So that is my point, that there are layers to it. One is at the level that the US is present. They tell you America is giving unqualified support to Israel about what it's doing. And that's the enabling, that's the enabler. And then Hamas is also doing whatever they're doing, and the Palestinian Authority is not able to stop them. And then the world is there watching. They are not able, because if you do, they will incur the wrath of America, which is now Trump is hammering everybody with trade tariffs. It depends on how you react or your attitude to him. He increases the tariff from 5% to even 100%. See what is happening about Brazil, about whatever. Brazil is facing the tougher, because the Brazil is now putting somebody who calls an ally. Bolsonaro is facing trial in Brazil. That is an internal issue. But because of that is the reason Trump is now, sanctioning Brazil. And so the world has really lost all the diplomatic flair. Whatever is the guardrails have been pulled over. It is now the survival of the fittest, where they want maybe unipolar world, but it's not going to work. You have seen now that India, Russia, and then South Korea and China, you see, they are trying to hold meetings to checkmate this American, trend that does not respect any international obligation. So that is a very difficult war to be in.
All right, it is always a pleasure having you on our program. Thank you, Mr. Paul Ejime, International Affairs Analyst. We shall see you some other time.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Tochukurafa, before you venture into the next topic, I would like to say something that I think is so important to this regarding this topic and my stand. I honestly believe that Hamas is a terrorist organization, but I blame Israel for the creation of Hamas. Why? Because according to United Nations, Hamas is not Hamas. Israel, Gaza is the largest open air prison in the world. So the system of apartheid, ethnic supremacy, and subjugation of a particular group of people doesn't breed moderates, it breeds extremists. So literally, the argument from the Israeli side was that they left Hamas in 2015, 2005, 2006, I mean, to rule themselves in Gaza Strip. But the reality is, you put a fence guarding these people. Basically, like this is a prison for the people, and we allow Hamas as the prison warden to keep on controlling them from within. But from outside, Israel control the air, control the sea, control the land. It has the register to every Palestinian. It has the name and every detail of every Palestinian. But all of a sudden, when they started pursuing Hamas, by the way, they know all the Hamas terrorists because the Hamas terrorists were receiving aid with the approval of the government of Benjamin Netanyahu, because a month before the attack, October 7th attack, Qatar sent money through Israeli government to Hamas, and Benjamin Netanyahu approved it. Why? Because he want to play the card of divide and rule on the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. He don't want them to unite so that for them to vote a common front to fight their own. But the reality of the issue is that Israel, the creation of the state of Israel in 1948, was the reason why Hamas was created, clearly, because you can't displace 700,000 people based on the pretense that God give you the land. Let me ask you, if someone come to your own house and say 2,000 years ago, my father was here, or God has sent me to come and send you out of your own home, will you leave the house for him? The reality is no. It will sound like absurdity.
It's okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. You're still watching DDM TV. This is where we draw to a close on today's episode. If you love this video, do not hesitate to hit the like button, make your comments, share this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates. We shall be here tomorrow morning for another exciting edition. Meanwhile, let me thank in a special way Mr. Due Process convener, Mr. Christian Ako Uche, the convener Due Process Integrity Group, and Mr. Ibrahim Umawase. Thanks for your contribution and time.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, viewers, that's it from me, Toshku Raphael. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.